Hey guys! Welcome to
the Debrief.
No,
We've got a lot to debrief
I was going to say
on.
the episode name. Number.
Oh yeah, we are now episode 13. And it's Friday, so hopefully that won't give us any bad luck.
No, that's actually
Just pray
super
audio
unlucky
works.
and
Exactly.
get some salt that I don't imagine salt.
All the stuff, shake your leg, grab its feet. But yeah, today's going to be a debrief because there's a lot of shit that's been going down. And we felt like, we need to have a bit of an emergency debrief. So,
Yeah.
lots of exciting stuff coming your way in the next couple of months. But yeah, we thought this was quite necessary to speak about some of the stuff that's been going on. So.
Oh yeah, so we're going to start with a bit of Derek Chauvin and the George Floyd trial.
Yes.
Because we've been watching that in our house for the past 2 weeks.
Well, 2 weeks has it been, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the events happened last summer, but just to be clear, this is the court case that's happening the year on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do you want to sort of start us off?
Okay, let me try and say what's been happening. So they've just been interviewing witnesses and stuff, trying to get the most solid case they can. Obviously, the prosecutors are saying that without a doubt he murdered him. I'm not sure how long they're trying to put him away for, but
Well, I think essentially what it is, I think the type of the sentence and stuff like that gets decided near the end. But I think the prosecution obviously want murder.
Yeah.
Obviously, not wrongs down from that are the degree manslaughter, and obviously the defense want to get him acquitted. So.
But acquitted.
Well, I mean.
Are they retarded? They're really good lawyers, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. That guy, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it's quite. I think he's supposed to be the villain, but he's a pretty
Yeah, he's a sound guy. He doesn't.
Guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know nothing about him, but he's not greasy. Yeah, but obviously, it's like the world versus Chauvin versus his lawyer and his lawyer. So I mean, it's pretty obvious where things are going. You would think. But obviously, a lot of people would see manslaughter as a failure. So, I mean, would you see manslaughter as a failure?
I mean, yeah, because it wasn't an accident. He clearly knelt on his neck for 9 minutes, viciously killed him.
Yeah, I mean,
it's it wasn't even it's not like it was. No, it was barbaric, but it's not like it was it was so
a fit
evil.
of rage. It was
so calm and collected, and even when you see him in court now, he just kind of sits there
he writes his notes down. He just looks up. Looks down, writes his notes. There's no emotion. There's no tears. And obviously he wasn't prepped, but you would just feel.
Yeah, you feel awful. You'd literally want to go and
testify
and be
the day after, but
I don't know, guys, let's not even do this. I obviously killed him. I don't know. Where's your remorse or where's your accountability?
Yeah. I think it would have boded a lot better for him. I think he's obviously taken the stance of, well, I've done nothing wrong, so why would I be upset? But even if you did nothing wrong. And want to go into a case where this may be more similar, you felt you actually did nothing wrong in your intention, just what you've caused. Forget all the stuff in the last year, just literally in that moment to that person.
Yeah.
That would devastate anybody.
So, I don't know, we'll see what happens to him. Oh, he was joking about it, that even if he doesn't get, even if he's not...
Oh, he's fucked. I was talking about jumping shots just then. He's fucked. He goes into prison, wherever he goes, they're gonna finish him off. He's not gonna be in a good spot.
And even if he was be able to walk free, which would be absolutely fucking mental, there would literally be mob. The mob would kill him instantly. He'd walk out of his house.
He'd probably have
a
police
literal
escort.
pitchfork. Yeah, he would.
Which would be paid by.
No, they'd have to change his name.
The taxpayer. They'd be fuming.
They'd have to change his name, and he'd be little.
Harry
White in southern Texas, just chilling, farming or something.
Yeah, his life is over. But yeah, I mean, so the court case has been quite interesting. I like the way you said it's been interesting to see lawyering at that level.
At its finest.
Obviously we've got quite a resoundingly sort of biased case in terms of how much evidence we've all been seeing over the last year and how much there is against it. And still it's become, there is, two sides and two thing, and they're trying to structure a proper court case, which I guess they have to do. They had a firefighter on who was at the scene, and that's kind of interesting. What do you make of that?
Yeah, she was. I was rooting for her, right? I was really rooting for her. She was saying all the stuff she should say, which is like giving the evidence. I mean, I was there because I saw it, and I'm a trained medical professional, so I thought this guy clearly is in trouble. Let me help him. All of that good. But then she started getting a bit arsey to the prosecutor, and was kind of like, well, like she was not. She was just saying things that were emotional. She wasn't saying facts at one point, and I was just like, that is not your job. You've been prepped for a year. Are you silly?
And the judge obviously does that classic judge thing of like saying, you will respect the court and you will say this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And it just makes her seem like hysterical or not a credible witness and stuff like that.
Judges are kind of peak. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, always.
They give me bad vibes apart from Nicola.
Yes.
Oh, dear Nicola.
We've got a Supreme Court judge interview coming soon, so...
Is she going to report?
Huh?
Is that what her promotion was?
Is that the right word? Well, that will be clarified.
High court, guys.
We'll find out what she's just been sworn into. But this is in Zambia, so a different type of law, but it will be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, law and courts and judges, it's all a bit of a weird circus act, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all like lots of manipulation and like pandering and
bureaucracy.
Yeah. It's just weird that like random people just get to decide what happens to you.
Yeah.
Literally randomers.
Like it's kind of we were speaking yesterday about the death penalty and stuff like that. Like it's somebody's job to literally come in and take.
Oh yeah, we were talking about how weird it is that there's a specific person or a specific doctor who thinks so like I'm a doctor and I train to save people's lives, but now I want to go into like lethal injection.
And we found out that you don't even actually have to be a doctor.
You can be a prison guard, nurse, like...
You have to be trained enough to inject somebody. And if you fail at killing them the first time trying, they get off. They don't get to...
Which I'm happy about, because I don't even believe the death penalty, so good. But,
yeah.
I mean, oh my God, that horrible case. I can't remember what the case was, but I'll put it in the link. Where the guy injected him and then, like... It didn't actually work, but then he like spasmed and no, it did work, but like it hit into his tissue or something, so he was like could feel all the pain it was happening, and then he still died anyway. So
and had a heart. I think often they have.
Oh yeah, he had a heart attack. That was it. He had a heart attack. So.
But yeah.
Horrible.
So yeah, it's just weird, but obviously you need a fully functioning beginning to end justice system. But it is just weird the breakdown of it. But yeah, so she was. That was interesting, and then they've also had a medical. You want to talk about the Irish guy? Oh
yeah, there was this really cute Irish doctor, and he was just fact after fact after fact that he was kind of just like looking at them like, "Are you dumb?"
What was his analogy? The church.
He was like, so the defense, no, not the defense, the prosecutor who also has to act like the defense sometimes, like make their case. Cross-examine. That was it. He was like, so like. George Floyd had like marks on his neck, and
or didn't have marks.
Didn't have marks on his neck. So surely, like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean that that wasn't the cause of death? And he was like, well,
if I
go to church and I sit on my buttocks, am I gonna have marks on my butt? And he just looked at them like, am I? They were like, No. Exactly.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go.
So, I mean, they've had some characters, but it's clear, like, whether you're a medical professional, whether you're a first aider, whether you're a paramedic, I think most people are just part of the side of seeing what has become the world justice in this case. And I think it's clear everyone's pushing one way. However, you do
social media is the justice system now, not...
It can be, and that's not just, I mean, there's funding, there's it's like a societal thing at this point. It's a momentous historical movement that's behind it, so it's, it's not subtle. But they have had some people, aiding the defense. I think they have, so like most of the police chiefs and policemen and things like that have disagreed with what he did, but I think there have been people saying that, I think basically the defense now can say it's mixed because you've had like 1 or 2 out of 4 or 5 that have said like, no, he did what he was supposed to have done. So all it takes is a little bit of what was it called? Reasonable doubt?
Reasonable doubt. All it takes is one jury member to say that he's not there. It has to be unanimous. So yeah,
for sure. So I mean, it's been an interesting case just looking at the okay, what was the drug level in his system? What was the part on his neck that was compressed? What was the...
Yeah, they had so many like weird little diagrams, like specifically looking at like this bit of his neck.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
Which makes you
fucking
think,
hell.
but it's like, it's all interesting, and it's all, I get that they're doing their due diligence, but ultimately, I think I said this to you when we were watching one of the trials. If somebody had a piano dropped on their head,
yeah.
right, that's why they're dead. Like, they may also have been less likely to survive that if they were old, or if they had a previous injury in their neck, but they had a piano smashed on their head, and it just seems silly to watch these videos where it's so kind of obvious what's happened, and then for there to be this meticulous case. But it's all interesting all the same, and hopefully, regardless, it will come to some sort of end and justice, and there can be some healing done from it, and some justice seen, and so we can start to trust systems a bit better. But just as we can say all of that, what's been unfolding?
Daunte
Right.
Wright. That happened literally a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, let's just first talk about what the incident was, regardless of the fallout.
The dipshittery of it. That's such a funny word, dipshittery.
So for all of you who don't know, do you want to tell them how the scene unfolded?
Oh yeah, so we have a 20-year-old kid who's driving his car, and apparently he's got something on his mirror that's like obstructing his like one of his mirrors. I think it might have been the inside one. So they put him over. Then they see that his license has expired or something, which basically that could happen to literally anyone. Like, apparently, I don't even know this. Another plate could be expired. I could be driving an illegal. No, I'm not. Don't come for me. But I could be. So yeah.
Well, I hope not.
But yeah, so they pulled him over and they were like, you need to like call your mum and ask for ID.
Well, he was already on the phone to his mum, I think.
Yeah, he was on the phone to his mum saying like, oh, I need you to like give me the paperwork for the car and stuff like that and send me over the details. And
they asked him to get out.
And they asked him to get out, and he was like, why? I'm not getting out. Like, you've just asked me to get. I'm just on the phone to my mum. And then
they explain everything.
Yeah, they said like, no, you just need to get out. Like, you need to calm down. And then he got out, and then she said that she was gonna tase him.
Well, no,
I don't know why she even needed to tase him.
Before that, so they're arresting him against the car because of this driving without a license thing. And then they're arresting him, and then I think the mum is on the phone this whole time, by the way. That'll be important to hear about the sad story after this. And anyway, so he tries to get like back into the car, either to get to his phone, to drive away, we don't know, but he basically struggles away, gets in. And then yeah, she was like, she started like taser, meaning to warn him that she's going to tase him. Then the silly bitch gets out a gun instead and shoots him, and unfortunately he passed away from that. So yeah, as Louise just said, the video clearly shows there's 3 police officers, 2 male, 1 female. The males are arresting him. The female was kind of extra and at a distance. When he broke free from them, to stop him getting in the car, whatever it was, she said taser. So she announced taser and took out a gun. I mean, these things are apparently, there's a regulation where they're supposed to specifically be on their different sides of their hips, so that the less preferred hand, it is obvious which one you're grabbing and things like this. Because this has happened once before, apparently in a similar kind of way. But to be a senior officer, and this isn't a newbie, to be a senior officer and pull out a gun when you clearly have, even if it takes a second to just see what you're holding.
Was she tired? I don't know. Was she under the influence of something? Like, how dumb do you have to be? That's literally like, that's like driving on a road, and then instead of going in first gear, you reverse into something, kill someone. Like,
yeah. And
come on.
And it kind of, we now know, unfortunately, it was a very heart-wrenching video out from the mum addressing the public since the fallout, giving her side of the story from the other end of the phone, and apparently she calls back to figure out what's happening. The girl answers the phone and shows him FaceTime, points to her boy's body, and he's been shot and he's unresponsive.
And his body was left there for 6 hours.
How
gross is that?
Yeah.
How do you even do that?
And he was left overnight in the station, was it?
He's dead. He's actually dead.
But then what's happened since then, obviously, with all what's happening over the last year with Black Lives Matter and police brutality, obviously there was going to be a reaction. Apparently there's obviously been riots again. There's been like battles with rioters and the police, and I think a few more people have died.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's just so annoying because it's like, ultimately that should not be happening. Somebody that incompetent should not have a gun. Secondly, the fact that it obviously was, it wasn't just black, he was also, you were telling me, the teacher, George Floyd.
Oh, George Floyd's girlfriend was his school teacher.
Yeah, so this is just further feeding this narrative that there's this like, agenda against people from this community. And so obviously people are going to take it one way, and now it's just resulting in more deaths and more riots and more distrust, and it's just all a mess.
It's a mess. Like, I was saying to Jeremy earlier, actually, like, the officer, yeah, she was stupid and stuff, and it was her fault, but I do feel sorry for her. Like, it obviously wasn't on purpose. But at the same time, when you have that sort of responsibility, like, you obviously she's going to be accountable for everything, but, like, it's just upsetting to see, like, you can do it to a road analogy, like, you could be driving and you could look away for a second and accidentally hit a pedestrian. Obviously you didn't want to kill that person, like, that's going to traumatise you for life. Like, you didn't set out that day thinking, I'm going to do this, like, it just sort of happened. Like, so I do feel sorry for her, but at the same time, like, when you have a weapon of destruction, like a car and like a gun, you really need to be responsible.
I think what's really good is she has quit, and you might think, well, obviously, but I think technically she was only not going to be suspended. Obviously, there was an investigation, but for now, she was technically suspended until the investigation went on. But
yeah, a lot of the time, like, especially in previous years, like, police have been getting away with literally killing people for ages.
And transferred and things.
Yeah.
Well, if she'd got back and she accepted her job back, I mean, that would have caused all sorts of hell. So it's a good thing that there's no chance of that happening. At least that will, to some degree, people can rest easy. Like, she isn't just going to be, policing with guns anytime soon or at all. But I don't see this dying down. I see it as being another fuel to the fire of all this stuff we'll see.
I don't know, like, you know what I think could be the problem? Like, especially with police and army people, I'm like, how are they training them? Do they make them into machines? Because surely, like, maybe once it's like you've killed enough people, then it doesn't really matter to you anymore. Like, you don't see people as people anymore. Like, that's
but she didn't.
But she didn't shoot him, but like.
Because I think, okay, military person, I think they would never in a million years, okay, that's an exaggeration, obviously. But you'd like to think somebody well trained with good funding and training would never make that mistake. However, they could probably kill somebody much easier.
Yeah.
In terms of, like,
Well, I mean, military people, like, bomb places all the time without realising how many people are in there, or like mistakes. So.
Exactly. So whereas with her, I think it's just this issue of, like, ridiculous amount of training for the police, or lack of training. Which is, by the way, why I don't understand this whole defund the police narrative, because fund the police so they don't actually bring out completely incompetent people who shoot people.
Exactly.
Instead of tasing them.
Like, I always think, this is probably a stereotype or whatever, but I always think when I like see people who want to be police officers, I'm like, you don't seem that intelligent, or like, but when I think of, like, police officer, like detective, like someone like that, I'm thinking in such a high regard. They're like the authority. They should be like,
profession should be more.
They should be like the most intelligent people ever.
Well, I mean, obviously, just the volume of people.
I know, but like, it should be regarded so much more highly than it is, so that you get people better, like a better range of people going into the job.
Yeah, it should be a job where, like, I remember I was having a conversation with somebody who wants to be a firefighter, and he was speaking about how rigorous that was, and I think it was like you can apply once a year or once every 18 months to 2 years, and the training was an exam, and there was a physical training, and there was this and that, and there was quotas, and all sorts of hoops to jump through. And that was just being a firefighter, where, yeah, of course, it's saving people's lives, but it's not quite the same thing. There's guns involved, for example, and that was in this country. So you'd like to think there would be the same rigorous
like thing. Doctors, they save lives every day.
And you still have surgeons that are dropping towels and teaspoons in bodies, and crazy stories like that.
Or leaving their freaking patients to bleed out whilst they're giving them a tooth operation, like.
Or whatever it might be. And things will happen in life, unfortunately, because when things at this scale happen, at scale, when we have access to the whole world news, there will be things, whether it's doctors or police, that's okay, but it's just...
I think with the whole police thing, it is more like doctor, once in a blue moon, but like police is every day. Like they've killed someone when it wasn't exactly necessary. I think it's just like. I think a lot of them are scared, and so they resort to the worst outcome, which is using their guns.
Well, I think
in this country, you might be scared that a drug dealer's gonna murder you, but you don't have a weapon to fight them with.
Yeah,
a weapon in
that instance, you would argue that we're worse off in that specific instance. I assume we're talking about somebody who's armed. In the public domain. In that case, because we do have like
we do have people with guns, but they're like elite terrorism, like police.
Yeah, but also like if you're doing a drug raid, they probably have guns and that sort of stuff. If it was scoped out to have for them to have guns and things like that. But this is
exactly. That's the thing. I feel like with our police, it's like scoping, like for sure. Whereas like, let's say for the Breonna Taylor case. It was her ex-boyfriend who was the drug dealer.
But it's just so unlikely that we'll have guns here, whereas it's so much more likely than
I know, but like it was her ex-boyfriend who was a drug dealer. There were no drugs in her house. Like she was just sleeping with her new boyfriend.
But the assumption is he'd have a gun, which he did.
Yeah. But like they didn't knock or anything, so obviously they're thinking, oh my god, like someone's probably having to kill us. Like if someone buys into your house, what the fuck would you do?
I mean, I personally would shoot them, but I don't live in this crazy world called America where no offense to any American viewers if we've got that far, but the crazy dynamics you have to live in where you can go from zero to a gun in your face. But I mean, okay, let's talk about the important element of this, the racial element. Not in terms of this young man's life. For me, that's what's more important, but unfortunately, this is going to be racially charged, right? So, okay, look, as far as I can go on it, she killed the guy out of complete incompetence. Now, if I can put a racial element on it, you could argue that, for example, if her actual train of thought had been, okay, he's escaping to get into the car where he might grab a gun, or he might drive away with drugs, or anyway, he might go on to do some further criminal activity, I might be more likely to think that if I have some sort of racial bias against, he's this demographic, whatever.
Yeah.
Tasing him is the most reasonable thing to do. And obviously, the tasing has become shooting. So I think it can have some unconscious bias to that extent. However, I do not believe that she went, right, arbitrarily just want to ruin my life and kill this guy, so I'm going to lie and say taser whilst I've got my own body cam on.
Yeah.
And anyone suggesting that, I'm sorry, that's bloody ridiculous. I mean, what do you think?
No, yeah, I know, but I feel like I was even saying, it was so, if anyone remembers was it Ahmered...
What's context of the story?
Another guy, Ahmered Rubbery or something. He was.
You can say Ahmered Rubbery as a name. Ahmered Rubbery.
No.
I thought you read like a story called Ahmered Rubbery. You're like. What was that story about Ahmered Rubbery?
No, you had to make fun of a person's name, you dickhead.
No, I'm sorry, Ahmered Rubbery. I'm sorry. No, may rest in peace. I apologise. Please.
Dead.
Please.
His name.
Oh, please don't tell me it's like a 5-year-old boy.
No.
Like last week or something.
Oh my god, sorry guys. You guys probably know who it is. But he was at like McDonald's drive-thru or something.
Yeah.
And
just recently.
he was parking and he fell asleep at the McDonald's drive-thru.
We had it on our Black Lives Matter series. I was thinking about the taser element. Okay,
yeah. He fell asleep and then
he drink driving or something.
Something like that.
Drink driving and they tried to put him in and then he stole the taser off the guy, shot at the police, and they shot back at him and they killed him. That was it, remember?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But just like tasers are so like dangerous in themselves. I don't think even tasers should be used. Like,
well, I mean, this isn't an instance of somebody being tased and, for example, having a pacemaker and heart attack. And that one was an instance of him tasing the police and I think it's just a taser maybe elevates the situation from a physical contact to a weapon contact, which is one step closer to guns, but ultimately guns is the common denominator.
Yeah, guns.
Nobody
I
died
know,
of a
but
taser.
I don't know, even tasers. It's just
just
that they always want to resort to that level of force. Like I just saw they recently today released body cam footage of a police officer killing a 13-year-old boy.
I've heard about this, yeah.
he was running away. I think there was he was with a 21-year-old boy. I think one of them had a gun or something. But like, again, a 13-year-old with a gun, like.
No, you have to tell me the story.
So either someone has given it to he's been influenced in a way that is not.
Sure, but a 13-year-old with a gun can still.
No, I know.
What's the story? What's the story?
I don't know who had the gun. Either the 21-year-old or the 13, or like he didn't have a gun anymore, but there was a gun in the scene. That's why they called that.
Sure, and then they saw a 13-year-old boy running away.
Yeah, and he was like sprinting and.
And they get shot.
No, even worse. Sprinting. Put your hands up, nothing in his hand, shot.
Do you know what I find so weird in America?
Why would you do that?
If you run away, you can, like, I get, for example, if you're they've just caught you in the act of terror or murder or something, and someone's running away, and the idea is, I've got to stop them at any means necessary because they could go on to commit another crime. But it seems almost like, maybe not for misdemeanors, but like for theft.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't know, anything. So a packet of fags, you can shoot. If they were just arrested, you shoot
to stop them.
If they're out of range of a taser, which seems
if
really
his hands are up, arrest him.
So why were they originally arresting him?
Child.
Why were they originally arresting him?
Because they heard that the call was that there was a gun at a scene.
So this 13, 20-year-old, 1-year-old would potentially fight each other.
Yeah, potentially the gun holders.
Right.
Yeah. And they so the police came and then they ran away from the police. You can see that he sees the police, starts running through the alley, and then they're like, stop, and then he stops, turns around, and they're like, put your hands up. He puts his hands up, and then he shoots him. And he's like, oh, shots fired. Like, why does he say that?
Well, you say shots fired to suggest...
But he shot him.
So, if you say shots fired, it says, like, I've been shot at. So maybe what happened was, I don't know, this is all speculation now, so please take me to stop. Maybe because there were two people... Shots have been fired in another situation. They heard the word shot fires to indicate, oh, he's shooting at you, shoot at him. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is all excuses and speculation and stuff like that. But ultimately, what you said is a young boy's lost his life, seemingly not with his hands up. So, yeah, I mean, all of these stories, like I say, you are going to hear, in terms of the numbers across the world, you are going to hear things, even as big as a country as America is. But it's just, it needs to stop.
It's almost like a 13, maybe it's almost like they're all just so scared. They're all just so scared. They always think, okay, I've got to use the most violent option. They've
got good reason to be, but unfortunately, regardless of their good reason to be,
you sign up for that job.
They've signed up for that job and they should be trained. Like, we can't make it too one-sided. You know, like, these are people that go against 13-year-olds, shooting them on a daily basis. I don't know what their situation is. I'm sure it depends on where they're based and what kind of situations they face. But it's complicated. But situations, for example, like the Daunte Wright one, is just not good enough. There's no excuses. Whilst I don't think it was her just assassinating a black boy, there's just no excuses for that level of competence if you're going to have a gun. You know, there isn't. So, but I mean, I also want to speak about today is more to do with this country as well as how do we address some of these things other than just saying, right, the police. What are the other factors behind it? Because we know that the police are a big factor. We know that guns in America are a big factor. We know that stop and search and discrimination, all these things. But what are the other things? And that's what we wanted to discuss as well. So, do you want to talk about open us up on
the race report?
Top Page report, yeah.
Oh, sorry guys. So there was a report that came out 2 weeks, 3
last month, maybe.
Ago, yeah, 3 weeks ago, something like that. Which was it was like commissioned last year after everything happened with George Floyd to see if there was actual like any evidence to suggest that there's institutional racism in the UK, and like so they basically the categories were education, housing, like crime, and
I think there was something on
something like that.
Campaigners. There was something on like in terms of they did a whole part of the report in terms of the current response to it. I don't know if they would call that the people or something.
But yeah, those were the sort of categories, and then they kind of just definitively said that there's not like any evidence of institutional racism.
Or sufficient, anyway.
Yeah, sufficient evidence. But obviously there are problems that need to be sorted, but it's not like this kind of monster that people make it out to be, and the institution's racist and everyone hates black or ethnic minorities, or it's even a joke. Even so, one of the we watched a podcast called Trigonometry where they interviewed, I think her name was Mercy Okuri or something like that, and she was one of the commissioners, and she was just saying about how they realised that you can't even use BAME as a categorisation right now.
As well,
because she was saying how people like to put black people into all one category, but really like the black people who are doing worse off in all these like specifically like education are the black Caribbeans, whereas the black Africans are actually excelling their white counterparts.
Yeah, it's strange because I was a BAME officer when I was at Louise's current uni, Birmingham, and we had like a conference to discuss these issues and stuff like that, a national one, and a massive part of that was just talking about the name BAME. And I would actually agree with that though, because I think, the plights of someone who's Filipino and someone who's, Nigerian first generation versus somebody who's mixed versus somebody who's all these things aren't all one and the same. But then you get people who may have a very similar experience who are white, like Eastern Europeans, who are suddenly not in the mix. It's just this weird, kind of flexible but also quite rigid categorization. And I get there was a time where, for example, Indian people in particular were, and even Irish people actually, so going back to the white thing, were put into...
It's just a time where sorry guys.
Hay fever season.
Well, no. Oh, that's so embarrassing. Where all
minorities.
Where all ex-colonized people were discriminated against. That's what Irish people were colonized.
Yeah.
And then got freedom in 1937.
Straight facts.
Straight facts. Black people from all over Africa, black people from the Caribbean, obviously Indian people, Pakistanis. No, Pakistanis as in the country.
Yeah, Pakistanis and Sikhs.
Yeah, but Sikhs aren't. They don't have a country. Anyway, and Hindus. Don't forget the Hindus. Jews, obviously.
Jews!
Don't forget the Jews, guys.
Always put the Jews, always...
Palestinians and even...
Yeah, but lots of different demographics.
Yeah, I just listed all the people who had colonised, but...
Point being is like... but I think that's because the overwhelming majority now, and obviously historically it has been white people tend to forget that. And so it has been easier to group all of the above in one group, but it is unnecessarily limiting, and it kind of just means that certain individuals get to just adopt all of these separate issues, and all it does is just makes there no clear roadmap to sort any one issue, because it's just collecting all of these separate nuanced things that sometimes, and said it in the report, sometimes are religious factors, cultural factors, in terms of where they are, age group
there was a lot
of that
focus on like single parent households, which
is a
massive factor in the way a kid is going to be brought up and is going to view the world. And we forget, yes, obviously single mothers, single fathers, great, but having two parents is always going to be better than having one. If two parents that love you is always going to be having better than having one parent.
On macro level, at least. As you just said, there are amazing single parents. We know many in our family.
Yeah.
And they have to be amazing because it is an amazing job.
Because it's a double task.
But it doesn't make it an easy job. So there are so many things. And then, recently with COVID, everyone's obsessed with this, BAME people are twice as more vulnerable, but then they're forgetting the multi-generational households. They're also forgetting...
Food?
Food being high in sodium, things like that. They're also forgetting, distrust in the government and vaccines from certain communities. And this stuff is now coming to light, and now we're discussing it, while still also kind of not making a direct link with why BAME people are also at risk. And another big thing we didn't actually think of, I just thought of, was that pregnancy
oh yeah, but trying to say that doctors hate black
Humes.
women apparently.
Yeah, so Rochelle Humes, only mixed race girl, so should she even be talking about something that's a black issue?
You know how I feel about colorism though, we're going to clash on that one, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so she came out with a documentary basically, which is kind of put a focus on the fact that black women are dying disproportionately in maternal care when giving birth compared to their white counterparts, not only dying but also having negligence towards their care and having complications. But then it also completely ignored, Indian women, for example, non-black women. They said minorities, which was pretty much as big.
No, they did say Indian women as well.
But the report was about
black
women. In fact, there was a backlash about the presenter being mixed race, and so this obsession with it to be, what's our struggle versus your struggle. For me, what kind of comes to mind is, well, surely if a certain group of people are put in certain areas, hospital funding is a massive thing. And so if that hospital is not private, is massively underfunded but overpopulated, then they're going to have less care. If more people that are in those local to that area are black.
It's all about social demographics, where you live, which, yes, at one stage was a result of racial bias, obviously there weren't really technically ghettos here, but
or just even oppression, just straight up oppression. Not even subtle bias, just you can't have this house, you can't have this job.
Yeah.
So that put BAME people at the time at the bottom. But now, what the report's essentially saying is that I think we can all agree there is a lack of mobility socially and economically from bottom to top. Black people are at the bottom because of a history of oppression and racism, but they're two different but confounding things.
But we're coming up.
Yeah.
20 years time, we'll see who's at the top.
Yeah.
Because now we're giving opportunities. It's like people keep complaining about how nothing's being done, but no, things are being done and things have been done. Especially when you're looking at 10 years ago. You don't know what children 10 years ago are going to be like now, because they're just getting into sort of their roles, and obviously a 30-year-old dude isn't going to be a CEO of a company. You've got to see the progress before you start to then make these.
And I don't think I've looked
judgments.
at multiple job applications and so in the last week, or volunteering positions, whatever, some sort of position, and I don't think I've seen one without this sort of disclaimer, we care about diversity and equality, and we put an active thing, blah, blah, blah. Now, what I'm kind of worried is the tokenism of it, not just in terms of actually recruiting that, but that might be something they're slapping on.
I don't want to be a token, but I kind of do.
Well, not even that, not even at the actual opportunities. It might just be something that's being slapped on job descriptions, regardless of whatever's happening, just to appease this need of, separate opportunities.
If I'm applying for a white hair care brand, is it going to be but we love diversity as well, but diversity doesn't work in that specific situation.
It's contextually relevant. So I want to be a therapist one day, and I think it is relevant that I'm actually a minority for both being black and for being male in the field. And I think that is important, because there are people that just don't feel comfortable being open with somebody who they don't feel like they can relate to, even on a superficial level of, ethnicity or family back values or gender, X, Y, and Z. Many women wouldn't want to see a male therapist, especially if it was about something to do with their being female. So in that instance, I think there does need to be more representation of people that are male, who are black, who have had different walks of life and family backgrounds. So that's relevant. But who makes your McFlurry? Less so.
Yeah.
Who lays your bricks? Less so. So it definitely needs to be factored in, where maybe there's been ignorance, but not now be ignorantly factoring it all the time, or pretending to factor it in,
Exactly, pretending to factor it in. This is what I'm saying. A lot of these companies are just oh my god, we're so woke, so liberal, we just love black people, ha 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 ha. And then they'll just slap a random black model onto the cover of something and be oh my god, we're diverse now, we've done it.
Oh, should we talk about adverts?
Yeah, oh my god.
So we have realised, and you guys can have a little experiment at home, every single couple in adverts now
is a mixed couple,
mixed
like
couple.
something, or like literally every adult, every other advert, you will see a black person on it.
Yeah.
Obviously, that is just not representative of the demographic of the UK. We live in a country which is what.
It's 87%.
87% white.
Yeah.
And I think 5% of that is black people.
And look, we're not coming from the point of view of what was that controversy with one of the Christmas adverts? Oh, this doesn't represent me anymore, blah 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 blah. And obviously it does represent us, but we're not saying like everyone needs to be white and all needs to be whitewashed. I think also it does do a better job than most movies do, TV series and stuff, in showing a black woman as a builder or what. It does show
an army engineer or something.
Yeah, it's a good marketing programming, I guess, to see different black people in different roles. Cool. But it's not at all representative, and it seems gimmicky because everybody.
But this is what I'm saying. Like all of these things are actually catered to white people.
The white guilt stuff.
The white guilt stuff, like it's all catered to that. Like, don't feel guilty. I don't want your guilt on me. Like, I don't want you to feel bad. I don't feel bad for me. I'm not a victim. I'm fine. Tell me I can do it because I can. Don't tell me actually, Louise. Did you know you're oppressed?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you know that you're oppressed?
Yeah, I think the whole point of ignorance seems to be at both ends of the scale. I think there's ignorance of there's no problem, and there is ignorance in that there is a problem regardless of what a context is in front of me. I think the point here is look at the individual where possible, and on a macro level,
scale,
look at the different factors, because otherwise nothing's ever going to get done. With the Black Lives Matter kneeling in football. One player, Wilfred Zaha, has stopped kneeling, not because he hates black people, obviously, he's a black player, right? He's saying, why am I kneeling? Because it's been 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's been, nothing's changing. Because people are starting to wake up to the fact that all of this is gimmicks, because it gets Instagram likes, it gets marketing funding, it's good in that way, but because we're not actually tackling the real factors apart from just arbitrary racism.
It's literally like shoving it in your face, like, okay, you should be happy now.
Yeah. You
should be happy now that we've shown that we falsely care.
Yeah. Instead of giving me the ability to apply for a CEO job, how about you give me some funding to have a tutor for my maths GCSE first? Why don't you know what I mean? Some food where I can concentrate.
This is where it goes. People need to actually care. I don't want to hear anything about. I don't care about politics. Politics is your fucking life. And if you don't care about politics, that means that you don't care about the people at the bottom of the political ladder.
Yeah, you don't have to be...
You're too privileged to even see that.
Well, exactly. You don't have to be a politician. You don't have to be in a certain business to use your phone, use Google to research more than just a black square or a meme that you've shared or something like that, or just randomly hating who you're supposed to hate and liking you're supposed to like, right? Like, we need to work with charities, work with NGOs, sign petitions that actually do something rather than just...
And if you really care about all this, if you really care about racism, because that's what the word has been used, thrown around all the time, racism, like actual hatred towards black people, or like black people have it so much worse, why don't you go take a look at that cheeky continent far away from us called Africa, where like the majority of people are in poverty. Okay, all thanks to colonialism, go look at that. Go send some money over there. Go work over there.
Speaking about that, so we've just speaking about how much the world is covering this Daunte Wright, very sad story, but an accident.
Yeah.
There's been an atrocious loss of life. Okay, maybe they were tourists and may not have been native people, but in Mozambique, it was a group of Islamic terrorists, I think. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I think from my memory. And they have basically, just went on a murdering spree and lots of people died in that country. I saw that on the news once. I haven't seen it much on social media. Maybe because some of the people were tourists and they're white and people don't care. Maybe it's because it was in Africa, so people don't care. But, that's a lot of lives lost. And why is that happening?
People don't see the insidious things that are happening in Africa. It's just kind of like, it's Africa.
It's
we
just
won't
part
look
and
at
parcel
that.
for them.
It's just Africa. They'll be fine. Like, they've always had it. We only have to care about the black people who live in America or the black people who live in the West. Because, there are people. But no, guys, we live in a global community.
Yeah.
Love everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we just need to think about things slightly differently.
It just needs to be more empathy rather than this weird guilt thing.
And not everyone has to be a doctor or a politician or run their own charity to make a difference, right? I'm not belittling social media or having conversations with your friends, or, you know, if you work in a business, being a voice for diversity. All that stuff is really great stuff. I just think, you know, just stop with the pandering a little bit. And if you want to care, then just look into what you're putting your effort towards, if you don't put any effort at all. If you don't know, that's cool. I don't believe this silence is violence stuff. Fine, if you see something happening.
But if you don't care, that's also fine. No one's saying you have to care, but don't pretend to.
Caring about putting your energies in the wrong thing is worse than actually caring if that thing isn't doing any good. You know? So yeah, it's quite ranty from us today, but
sorry, I was just kind of heated. I've been bothered about this for like a few days now.
Yeah, they're all quite important issues. And in terms of a social media fad that someone was supposed to hate, obviously we've just lost or gained, depending on your point of view, the death of the Duke of Edinburgh.
Philip.
Yeah, we've been watching a lot of The Crown, by the way, so
that's
you
why
get some references.
That's why it's just funny.
Yeah, so I mean, what have you made the fallout from that?
I think it's all funny, right? I think the memes about his death, they were funny, but equally the jokes he made when he was alive, some of them racially charged, yes, were also funny. Is it worse to make fun of someone dying, or is it worse to make fun of someone's race? Like, I don't really.
Yeah.
Why are you better? Why are you better than Prince Phillip? Okay.
Yeah, and also like.
That's actually such a good question. Why are you better than? Tell me why you're better than Prince Phillip.
Also, yeah. So okay, if you've put your hand down, if you've never made a racial joke, if you've started your own charity. If you created a scheme all across schools in the UK for boys and girls to, go on adventures, learn new skills. If you've fought in a war and saved any lives.
If you're a refugee.
Oh. If you're a refugee, if you've done any of those things, you go ahead and make a new meme about how fucked up he is, right? If you haven't done any of those things, just maybe think. When your hand's up. You can put your hand down now, by the way, either way. Don't hurt yourself. Right, and that's not saying he's an angel, right?
No, obviously he's not an angel. Like, he said some fucked up shit, and he was a massive dickhead. If I'm being quite honest. Yeah. But he was a funny guy, and he also did some great things.
Yeah,
so.
He was a complicated guy, as we all are, and especially living 100 years. Like, get that around your head. 100 years, and he's still pretty much the same loose bloke. That's all he is, really. Like, he's not somebody who went from like a Nazi to a this to now David Attenborough. Okay, you could argue David Attenborough's quite old as well. But like, do you see what I mean? Like, he's not somebody who's shifted with the times.
I mean, how do you know what David Attenborough's chatting what he was saying in the 60s with his friends?
Of course.
Corona.
Of course, yeah. And I think a lot of what I've heard on another side of this stuff is like, he had to make a lot of small talk with people he just didn't know. Like, he had like, how many other duties? And to the point he was what? He retired when he was 96 or something from doing duties? Anyway, going up to all these countries, and literally he'd have like 1 minute to say something to them. The first thing he'd see about them is the colour of their skin, or the difference of their clothes, or whatever. He's a dry, wet guy. The first thing he says is trying to make some sort of relational joke with them. Yes, I'm sure he had some things that were not on, and they were.
No, don't get me wrong. He 100% thought that black people, Chinese people, were less ahead than him in the 40s or 50s, because that's what the majority of white people thought at the time. Like, they weren't even free countries. Like, that was the general thought. So it's not like he's some like special crazy guy. Yeah.
But that doesn't. Well, he also went there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He also lived among them, like obviously as a royal would, but especially in some of his more like navy capacity as opposed to royal capacity. He met with the people. He danced with them, he ate with them.
His views changed over time, like, you've got to...
Yeah, he would have met a lot more cultures than any of us would have, other than, like, going to a hotel somewhere that we would have done, or, read something on Instagram about the place. He would have lived in those places. And I'm not saying that he's an expert on them and his opinions, if they're rude, are true, but at least he had an experience to have an opinion on.
Exactly.
So
I'd love to see the reactions of some of these people who are so sheltered in the Western world, who they actually go to Africa, and what their actual natural reaction would be like to going to a random village. Like, would they be like, wow, these people are exactly like me? Like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
And they probably take a picture, stick it on their Facebook profile.
Yeah, and be like, look, I have a starving African child. Like, kudos to me.
Yeah, here's one P. Come over here. Here's one P.
Then I bet you'd be wiping your hands after you fucking.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember that George Bush thing?
Yeah, it's so funny. Oh.
To be fair, Corona, maybe it was the wise thing.
Corona.
And we now know, wash your hands after you touch people. You don't know them. Because honestly, you can catch some stuff. So, not just Africans, anybody. Anybody. So yeah, I just think, again, this is another big example in the news right now of someone or something that's complex. You know, that isn't black and white. And I think nowadays we just want black and white. We just, no pun intended.
I feel like people actually hated him because he was a white old man.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that not hating someone because of their race?
Oh, I mean, people are extremely racist these days. And that doesn't mean all people, especially not our viewers, of course. But this obsession with like white jokes in comedy or TV series or like amongst friends, it's quite like, it's just bad comedy, right? At least his stuff is creative. Like,
this is the thing.
It's just fashionable now to either like self-deprecate if you're white, or like to hate white people are bad at this, white people are bad at that. And you know what, if I was white, I take on the chin, it's funny. If someone wants to say something about black people,
this is what I'm saying, like, if someone
funny.
says something about black people, I actually do tend to laugh. It depends what it's like. If it's like an ignorant comment that you genuinely think they think is true,
yeah,
then I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like if they're like, oh, he's late, classic black people, we can say that shit, like, we say that stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, we can say it. But if a white person asks a question in the wrong tone, it's a microaggression, you know? So we just need to like, take a book out of Philip's rule book and just not make everything so serious, and have a kind of childlike curiosity in terms of engaging and learning about other people, even if that can be offensive sometimes. Maybe not as offensive, but risk being offensive to learn, I think.
But I'm just so curious, like, I sat there and like creased at his jokes, but is that because I'm a minority? Like, I don't really understand. Like, I think this happens with a lot of dark humour as well. Like, it's just quite a reprieve to actually say something that's not so guarded and like boring. But then again, I thought it was like mainly white people posting on social media like, oh my god, Philip's so gross, but like we were creasing. Yeah. So I don't know. But a lot of people, we have to remember, like, whether it's our grandparents, maybe it's just people that have some sort of connection to history in some way, did really appreciate, you know, what he did for this country, and that should be respected as well. I'm not saying that on your TikToks getting offended by your memes, but your memes are also funny. Like, he was a dead man walking for about 10 years. Yeah. Like, that was quite funny. He probably would have died for me in a sort of a bag of salt. If he met him, he'd probably be like, if I poked you with my hand right through, he'd probably make the same joke about himself. Exactly. So a little bit of banter, really. Yeah. Although the monarchy is an absolute waste of time, and we should sell it all for money. Absolutely, get rid of them. But no, I'm sure that's another complex issue that maybe we can speak about another day. When we have Royal on, we'll have Lizzie on at some point, obviously. Imagine if Liz was sitting in between us right now. She would. We have her some ski. She might want to sit a few metres away from her, and I mean, we are maybe too black for her taste. I don't know. Well, she did dance with the president of Ghana. She did. She does like a Ghanaian. So I'm sure she'll be down. She's single now. That's too soon. No, it's not too soon. Give me a high five. No, give me a high five. No, rest in peace. Put your hand down. No, I can't do it on because they would have seen it. I couldn't do that to you, but I take it back, Lizzie. You mourn your husband, but you know, it was romantic. Weird romantic story as well. Yeah, I mean, yes, she was 9 years old when they first met. What about it? You know. But they lived like 100 years ago. Like, imagine, that's a long-ass relationship. It's sweet. So, sweet. May we all be as lucky to like have such a long-lasting, endless love, relationship, you know, partnership that works in whatever way it's got to. Mm-hmm. So we can all hope for.
Cool. Well, this has been a whirlwind episode.
Sorry if we've offended loads of people.
We probably have. That's
We
not our
offend people all the
intention.
time. We
But-
love you all.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of banter.
Bit of banter.
Bit of banter.
Bit of humour.
Um,
And as I say, watch this space. We've got loads of exciting new content coming from you.
we also love it if people disagree with us.
Yeah, post in the comments, please.
We're always ready to
Think.
have our views challenged.
Think critically.
Yes.
So if you're watching this on YouTube comment. If you're seeing this on social media, comment on the post. Anything, send something in to us if you want to ask us a question, and we'll talk about it. We'd love to have an engagement from you guys. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, cool.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.